welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm not really sure how I'll structure this video, but I am basically going through a week in my life that happened months ago, and we will kind of look back on everything. What? So for context, every year one of the more prestigious art schools in Sweden have this scholarship competition for drawing, and there are 3 winners who will be awarded $10,000 from the King of Sweden. Like, you get to shake his hand. And as you guys know, my portfolio is like 99% oil paint and like 1% IKEA bag. So every year when the competition rolls around, I realize that I haven't made a drawing since the last time the competition was, and I have to create 5 brand new artworks. Because you can't send in paintings and you're not allowed to send the same drawing twice. And I only draw when it's time for the competition. But that is also the reason why I love entering so much, because I really get to rediscover my love of drawing. Like, from the age of 10 to 19, drawing was my biggest passion, and I love drawing. I would draw every day. And for me, painting was just like a natural progression where I saw more potential for myself to develop my artistic visions. But if I had to choose, I think I honestly prefer the act of drawing, but I prefer the result and medium of painting, if that makes sense. But basically, setting the scene, I saw the deadline for this competition 8 days before the due date. So I cleared my schedule and gave myself like 8 days to create as many artworks as possible, but especially create 5 new good ones that I could submit with a clear conscience. But I took my sketchbook and looked through my camera roll and tried to find some kind of red thread or some inspiration, and realized that I had never tried the hanji paper I brought from Korea. And if you don't know what hanji paper is, it's basically a very traditionally ancient technique of making paper out of mulberry trees in Korea, and it's very commonly used in Korean artwork, and you can buy it like in many places if you visit Korea. So I thought this was a great opportunity to experiment with a new material and a technique I'm very familiar with, which is soft pastels. And luckily enough, I realized that the soft pastels stuck really well to the paper, because if you've worked with soft pastels before, you really do need like a specific grit to your paper in order to make it work. The paper is too rough, you can't blend properly, and if it's too like polished, it won't stick well enough. Those of you who watch my vlogs have already seen the first 2 drawings I did for the competition, because when I made these, I was also filming a day in the life that you can watch somewhere in the button and in the description. And to be honest, this color of like pink is not my color. Like, I have no articles of clothing, no interior design. Like, I don't own anything in this color because I don't really like it. So it was a bit challenging for me to like figure out what I was gonna do with it. Then I remembered this photo of my aunt and her husband on one of their wedding ceremonies, and I thought it was really pretty, and I thought it really matched the paper, because then the Barbie pink paper could work as the shadows of the handbook. And technically it was a very simple photo to draw because the lighting was straightforward and there weren't like a lot of tiny details. And I am a pro at drawing silk skirts from all of my days of Hamilton fan art. I think this one took me less than 2 hours, and I had a lot of fun with it. However, I am a bit torn on whether or not I like it. If you know that this is a family photo, I think it works really well, but there's something about it that is a bit too beautiful that kind of flattens the emotion out of it in a way. If I would have told you I just copied the cover of a cheesy K-drama scene, you would believe me. And if you look at it that way, I don't think it works for me to send to the King of Sweden, proving that I am worthy of an artist scholarship. I'm gonna try to make a painting out of this photo as well, to see if it looks less fan arty without the like colored pencil look. So we'll see. Then I did my second piece, which was a portrait of my grandmother. That was less curated perfection, if you would say. Showing her in a not post way, and I really do think this worked better with the paper. This is one of my favorite artworks that I've ever done. I think it's very reflective. I like how ghosty it is. I like how I left some parts completely unresolved. There's this thing that I have tried putting my finger on through my artwork for the past 2 years since the first time I visited. But I feel like there is this sorrowful undertone that you can feel when you're there, but it's kind of disguised and out of from all of the K-drama, K-beauty, K-pop, trendy, hip-hop, not hip-hop. When I went there, my aunt said, like, don't mind Harmony, she's from the sad generation. You know, that older generation who lived through the Korean War and the poverty that followed, and you know, obviously, like, that situation is the reason why my mom was adopted to Sweden, because they had nothing to eat. Now I'm just rambling, but I've been very fascinated by what, like, life and living in Seoul now must be like for the generation who grew up in Seoul then. It's like unrecognizable, and to this day you can really see the old and the new and the deep and the shallow and the dark and the light. Like, you can see, like, all of these juxtapositions would be my first impression and still, like, definition of Korea. If that same night I couldn't really film my process, but I basically started another drawing on paper I rescued from being thrown out that says Landskrona something on the back. I wanted to try something a bit different, a bit more abstract, if you will. So I picked a photo from my aunt's photo album that was very old and faded and overexposed. I wanted to see what I could make out of that. And it's really interesting because I am super proud of this drawing, and before submitting, like, my 5 entries, I asked all of the people that I know, like, which one's your favorites? 90% of the people I know really didn't like this one, and they thought it was the weakest one. But like, 2 of the people whose opinion that I really, really value and trust, they really liked it. So I'm like, I still don't know if it's a good drawing or not. All I know is that I really love it, and 2 of the coolest people that I know also do, and that's okay. And then that same night I was going to draw a, not draw an animation, but I was going to make a drawing that had, like, a movement in it. I don't know if you can tell in the time lapse, and I also don't remember if it was, like, before, during, or after, but a person very close to me called me and was really upset because something really bad had happened. And I was just kind of stressed out, or, like, very distant from this drawing. So I remember just wrapping it up in, like, 15 minutes, doing a lot of shortcuts and really not giving it a lot of patience and dedication. And there are aspects of this process of being like this that I like, because it does have a certain energy inside it. However, I do think this piece could have looked really interesting if I would have just done it carefully. I don't know how to feel, because I do like that when I show people, they initially can't tell what is happening. Some people think it's just abstract, some people think it's completely just patterns, and then once you tell them that it's actually my grandmother folding her bed, then people will be like, oh, and then once you see it, you get what it's supposed to be. I still wish I would have paid it a bit more attention, and I also wish I would have chosen the colors more carefully. I just picked 2 random ones, and I think especially the flowers on the sheets are a bit uglily done, if that makes sense. And then after doing these 4 drawings with the Korean heritage theme, I decided to move on to self-portraits, because it just gave me a lot of freedom, because I have so many photos of myself. I know what I look like. I can, like, direct the references exactly as I want. And there is another competition called the self-portrait prize coming up. So I was like, okay, I move on to self-portrait, and I did this image of me and Andy that I have a full tutorial on, also linked in the description. I wanted to do something a bit more realistic, a bit more skill requiring than the previous drawing, but I also wanted it to have a stylized look. So I was looking a lot at like East Asian portraiture and art, where each East Asian artwork is very focused on aesthetics and beauty. And I do feel like in the Western galleries and schools and everything nowadays, being pretty is equated to something lacking depth. I took this quite like rough photo of me and Andy where we just woke up, we're in bed, but I wanted to give it the same treatment, as this is something to be honored and delicately portrayed, like in East Asian artwork of flowers. So I looked at a few inspiration photos. I can show you my Pinterest here. And I started drawing really delicately and using a lot of negative space, letting the paper and the materials really show through and shine. And I think this piece ended up being very beautiful in its simplicity. It was very liberating for me as an artist to work in this medium and on this paper, because I realized that I have full control here. Like, soft pastels is the medium that I have the absolute most experience in, and I felt so confident in my skill set that I could just focus on enjoying myself, which is a level that I am not quite at with painting. So it was just really fun to have full control and to make artistic choices knowing exactly how it would look in the end, because when I do oil painting it's kind of a gamble. So now I wanted to challenge myself and try to combine the Eastern viewpoints of beauty in artwork and aesthetics and the kind of Western prioritization of narrative and message and stuff like that. So I decided to stage a photo shoot with my broken lucky cat that I broke. I'm currently working on my relationship with money, and I feel like sometimes I get so caught up in this hustling and stress and just wanting to, I wouldn't say like greed, because I don't make a lot of money as an artist, but you know, I need to get my monthly income, this stress and all of these kind of like foul tricks I do. Like I buy these lucky cats very superstitiously in hope that they will like bring me more fortune, help my business, because I'm constantly on the brink of bankruptcy. Basically, my company's not doing very well, and I remember like this stress of I need my lucky cat at the market because I need to make more money. I remember that causing me to drop it and break it, and I just felt like, what have I done? God forgive me. I just felt like it was such instant karma and instant bad luck, because I was not kind of earning the help and energy this lucky cat was supposedly hanging. And this particular lucky cat was actually a gift my dad gave me when he was in like Hong Kong when I was like 7. And I broke it because I was fucking greedy and I wanted to bring it to the market. It cost me this very sentimental object and means a lot to me, and represents kind of what actually matters in my life, which is my family and stuff. And I was just like, wow, this would be such a good painting. And my art portfolio is very much like autobiographical, so whenever something happens that makes me change my mindset slightly or has any impact on me and the way I feel, the way I think, that I always feel a need to paint or draw. And once again, kind of similar to that wedding photo I also drew, I am a bit torn on whether or not this is great because of how aesthetically complete it is and how like very perfect and beautiful it is, or if it's almost a bit too perfect and feels like the emotional or like the weight of it has been taken away. I am a bit torn, but ultimately I do like this piece. Although this isn't surrealist, this piece has inspired me to add more symbolism to my art and maybe even surrealism to kind of illustrate different concepts or life lessons that I learned. So this piece is called Lifetime of Regret, based on this Chinese expression. And then the next day I decided to go back to the hanji paper and try to do self-portraits of myself with the paper to like further represent my identity, Korean identity, going back to your roots, whatever. So I took this blue paper and I decided to try and see how it would look if I was using a black and white photo on this colorful paper. And this is one of my favorite photos of myself. It's a very spontaneous photo that Andy took when I was trying on my hanboks at home, and it's taken in my apartment, and I think it has such a fun mix of very traditional beauty and like the everyday Sweden. I really like that combo. However, after drawing it, I think it works best as a photo because the juxtaposition between the everyday stuff and the traditional stuff doesn't really come through when I'm using a traditional medium on traditional paper. Although I think it's a cool drawing and I do think it's like a beautiful piece, I don't think it's a successful self-portrait and I don't think it reflects my personality at all. So if I would look at it as just like a beautiful, ghostly, traditional artwork, I would like it. But I think it's a very unsuccessful self-portrait and I don't think it captures anything other than aesthetics. So after that reflection, I decided to try again, but Andy and I would have a photo shoot that had more attitude and try to capture my personality more. We took a lot of photos where I wasn't making like my pretty model face, where I would have like a bit more attitude. I do like the attitude of it. I do like the fiery sense of it. I do like the transparent way I applied the pastels, but in the end I think I chose the wrong photo. I do think it really captures my kind of initial art persona. I feel like it does represent a confident, often drunk side of myself. My stage name or the nickname Andy has for me is like Pheasant Empress, and I think it really has that, it really captures that energy and that side of me, but I don't think that side of me is a reflection of who I am. I think it's more of a persona kind of. I'm quite shy, so I think it's an interesting portrait, but I don't really think it captured me either. Sometimes when I look at it with certain lenses, it kind of just looks like a cool rock and roll chick, and then I think it's like the ugliest portrait ever. So it really depends on what kind of eyes I use on it. So now I had to narrow these 8 drawings that I had produced that week into 5 submissions for the competition. And it was really hard because I feel like they are all very different and their strengths and weaknesses aren't really comparable, if that makes sense. So what I did is I asked all my friends and family members to pick their top 5, and then I was going to compare the results. And before I share the results, please comment down below which 5 pieces here you think are the strongest. The jury, consisting of my friends and family, this is their personal choice, which was number 1 with 9 votes was Lifetime of Regret, the Lucky Cat photo. And then on shared second place with 6 points each, we have Harmony, Me and Andy, and the Handbook. And then on third or 6th place, we have the wedding photo. And then we have the abstract ones with 4 points each. And then on last place, we have the Phoenix self-portrait. So, which pieces did I choose? Well, quite surprisingly, I did not end up submitting my top 5 personal favorites. As I was doing the application, I realized that you had to write a text and you only had one text to represent all of the artworks. So I decided that it was better to stick with a strong theme and artistic identity and submit the pieces that worked together, kind of. So these are the 5 images I ended up submitting. They will announce the winners next week, but I don't think I have a big chance to win because I know usually prioritizes more, how do you say, like more unconventional drawing styles, which I think is quite valid. I obviously use a very straightforward technique and my art style is realistic, so I would understand if they would choose someone who has more of a unique signature of the work or whatever. But I am super proud of myself for submitting and super proud of myself for creating 8 artworks in 1 week. And it was very nice to get an excuse to whip out my crayons again because I love soft pastels. And I don't know why I only use them once a year when this competition rolls around. Because they really do give me a lot of joy and inspiration. I'm also really excited about the Hanji paper because I feel like it has opened up a lot more more experimental mindsets in my brain. So did I make the right choice? Please comment your top 5 out of my drawings, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Subscribe, and I will link the vlog where I drew and the top pastel tutorial in the description. Okay, bye.